Welcome to Blue Collar Sports, everyone. We appreciate you guys tuning in today. As we always do, Tuesday, Thursday from 2 to 4 o'clock in the afternoon down here in the Pulse Radio studio at Boise State University. I'm your co-host, Seth Newville, joined here in studio with co-host Trevor Brennan. We got a great Super Bowl show for you today. We talked about it a little bit on Tuesday about how today's going to be all geared towards the Super Bowl, and that is what we're going to do. However, we did just have some breaking news within the NBA revolving a big-time trade that is not centered around Anthony Davis. We will see what happens with that situation. So we are going to kick it off with a little bit of NBA talk because a breaking story just went down. How are we doing today, Trevor?
We're doing great. I'm so excited to be here today. You're right. The NBA trade just went down in a sec, but today's all our Super Bowl show today. It's going to be great stuff. I'm ready for the Super Bowl on Sunday. It's going to be a great game, so I'm ready to get to it.
I cannot wait for us. But we are going to start the NBA right now. Breaking deal just went down. Kristaps Porzingis, the future of the New York Knicks, the future of New York basketball, has been shipped. He reported, I saw the reported about 2 hours ago, saying that he wanted out of New York because he was uncertain about what their future looked like. And then 2 hours later, he is gone. He is going to the Dallas Mavericks along with Courtney Lee and Tim Hardaway Jr. In exchange for DeAndre Jordan, Dennis Smith Jr., and Wesley Matthews. They will go to New York. Thoughts on this trade?
It's a good trade for Dallas. I would say they're the big winners early on here. Porzingis, I don't think he's going to be able to play all season long, but this is a good setup for the future, I'd say. I know Dennis Smith Jr. wanted out. Wesley Matthews, DeAndre Jordan, they were on a one-year deal left. So no picks involved. So that's a killer deal for Dallas. Now they can pair up Luka and Kristaps together. So I think it's a killer deal for Dallas. For New York, I would have liked to got a pick in that deal, but they got rid of Porzingis, who's not even playing for them right now. So we'll see what they end up doing with this deal.
Yeah, the way I look at this deal that just went down, I agree with you. I think Dallas won the trade. To pair up Kristaps Porzingis and Luka Doncic, I think that's going to be a scary combo for the next couple years. And they're both so young. And they keep their pick this year, which I know they're not in the playoff situation right now. I'm pulling the standings up right here. As of right now, they are sitting fourth worst in the Western Conference, with the seventh worst record in the NBA, which means that's probably, I would guess, going to be a top 10 pick.
Right.
Now, especially now that they don't have DeAndre Jordan, Wesley Matthews, any guys that were playing right now, and Porzingis isn't going to play this year. So they're going to be worse the rest of this year. That could turn into a top 5 pick that you're keeping to get another star that could pair up with Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis.
Right.
Dallas, I think, got a huge win here.
Yeah, I'm excited if I'm Dallas right now. Dirk, I wish Porzingis could be playing right now because I think Dirk would have been a great mentor for him.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, Dirk loves him.
We'll see how much more Dirk has for sure, but I think it's a good pairing. It's kind of a foreign feel, kind of European team now. But I'm excited to see how it turns out.
Yeah, Dirk's talked about Porzingis and how much he loves his game, how much he's
how
sees
similar
himself
it is. Yeah.
in Porzingis, and Porzingis is a much more athletic version, which is scary. So I really, really like this deal for Dallas. For New York, I understand it. You acquire a young guy in Dennis Smith Jr., who has a lot of potential, and he obviously wasn't working out with Luka Doncic. That wasn't going to work. So you acquire a young guy there, and you acquire DeAndre Jordan, who I've seen is reported close friends with Kevin Durant. They are going all out on this
Offseason.
This upcoming offseason,
Right.
I believe, with the big-time names, guys like, they've been in the Anthony Davis talks, but guys like Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, Jimmy Butler, Kyrie Irving, I think they're going to be all in on getting those kind of guys, and I think getting DeAndre Jordan helps that, but he's also a free agent, so he cannot even return.
Yeah.
It's an interesting move for sure.
Yeah, we'll see how it pounds out. I predicted Anthony Davis would be traded before our show. It was a different route, but I still think it will be traded before next show on Tuesday.
They have opened up discussions. It was reported that the Pelicans were not talking to the Lakers, but that has changed. They are now in discussions. So we'll have plenty more on that coming up for you on Tuesday's show. But like we said, we got the Super Bowl in a couple days. That is a once-in-a-year event. biggest event in football. We talk a lot of football here, so we are going to focus this entire show on the Super Bowl starting right now.
Yeah, let's get to it. The Super Bowl is this Sunday. Make sure to tune in. Of course, the whole nation is going to do this. It's on CBS. It's going to be an all-day event, so you'll be watching all day on your couch. It's going to be so fun. But it's going to be a great game of two great teams, the Los Angeles Rams and New England Patriots. We all know the key storylines leading up to this big game, and we're going to talk about that right now. The big storylines, how these teams got there, and what's going to go down on Sunday.
Yeah, well, we'll start with the past for both these teams because it's kind of different past. Patriots, it's similar to what we've seen from them in years past with a rough start. I got their schedule pulled up here. Obviously, the win in the opener against the Texans, only won that one by 7. They dropped their next 2, including a loss to the Detroit Lions and the Jacksonville Jaguars, 2 teams that were not in the playoffs. And I remember we talked about it here on the show when they started 1-2. We had them almost near the bottom of our power rankings, if not outside the top 10. And I mean, I fell for the trap. I'll admit it. I fell for that trap. I said this team's not the same. Tom Brady's getting older. And yes, granted, they did not look the same all year. They went 11-5. Normally do a lot better than that. But after dropping 2 of their first 3, they go on to win 6 in a row before dropping another one to Tennessee. And then they end up losing 2 to the Dolphins and the Steelers late. But other than that, all wins. So they end 11-5, get to the playoffs. First game against the Chargers, that's when I knew this is the same Patriots team we've always seen. They came prepared for that, beat down the Chargers, and then obviously the dramatic game with the Chiefs. What is to make of their journey?
Yeah, you said all the right stuff. They started 1-2. Early start, did not look too pretty at all. I was questioning the Patriots myself. I didn't want to get too ahead of myself because I knew something like we saw could happen, and it has. And since that 1-2 start, they went 7-2 in the next 9 games, including that big 43-40 win against the Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah. I think that one was a game changer. Close game the entire time. I believe it was a Sunday night football game. Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady going back and forth. It was just as good as their playoff game. So that was a lot of fun, and I think the Patriots felt really good about their team and what they had after that game. And so, like you said, they finished 11-5. A couple bad losses in there, but it's the Patriots. They bounced back after that. And then, of course, the Chargers and the Chiefs, the 2 playoff wins they just had. It looked like the old Patriots team. And I'll say it right now. Maybe I'll say this. This is the worst Patriots team I think I've seen in the Super Bowl. But
that's fair.
Because or I'll say the least talented. I'll say that. Right. I don't want to say it's the worst because they're still possibly 1 game away from being the best team in the NFL. But this is the least talented Patriots team I've seen in the Super Bowl in a very long time, probably ever. But they're still so good enough to be able to win this game because of the coaches, their system, their program, how they run things. They do everything the right way, and it's not about how good you can be early on in this season. It's about how good you are right now, and the Patriots are the best team in football right now.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. It's typical Patriots. I mean, there was a couple times throughout this season I really did doubt them after they lost the Jaguars and Lions, obviously early. And even later in the year, they lose to the Dolphins on a dramatic loss.
The Titans game
they got blown out. I did pick that one. We got blown out in that one. The Dolphins, the dramatic ending in that one.
Yep.
And then, of course, the Steelers game. I thought when I watched that Steelers game, they only scored 10 points. It was a chance to really put the Steelers out of the playoffs. If they had won that game, the Steelers had a hard chance getting to the playoffs. And I think Steelers were probably one of the biggest teams in the way of Tom Brady.
Right.
And so I thought that was a great opportunity for them. I know the Steelers still didn't end up making the playoffs, but that was a great opportunity for them. Failed to do it there. But I think now that I'm looking back on it, and especially watching them in the playoffs, especially the Chiefs game, watching this Chiefs game, I think going through the season they were finding their identity as a run team. That hasn't been the case with the Patriots for a long time. We saw early, Sony Michel got off to a good start. They used a lot of guys, Rex Burkhead, James White's obviously been in the mix a lot. They were trying to develop a run game first mentality because I think of Tom Brady's age. And yes, I'm going to say it, Tom Brady's still obviously an incredible quarterback, but he's not the same Tom Brady we've seen in the past. So I think some of those early struggles were them trying to rely on and figure out these other pieces that they could use this time of year. And of course, like Belichick always does, they figured it out. They got Michelle going now. James White's still their leading receiver out of the backfield. And they got all these other weapons going. And I think that's why it was an interesting regular season because regular season is obviously important, but they knew they were going to be here eventually.
Right.
They needed to figure out how to peak come playoff time. That's exactly what they did.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. They wanted to find their identity. It's a run-first team. They weren't like that early on this year. They had the shootout against the Chiefs, so they had to go a different route. But now they are absolutely a run-first team, the best running team in football right now.
Yeah.
And it's definitely an old-school feel, and that's what's winning football games. Everyone's so excited about the new thing. That's what we're going to get to with the Rams right now, but it's still old-school football. That's how the Patriots keep winning.
That's the Patriot style for sure. And a whole new style is now we move and focus on the L.A. Rams. I'll let you take this one a little more because I know you have been big on this team ever since their big offseason, obviously.
Yeah.
Huge change in offseason. They acquire Peters, Talib, Sue, Cooks, all these weapons they bring in, and boy, did it pay off.
Yep.
What was the make of their journey?
Yeah, this whole run started in the offseason. Like you said, Lesney, their general manager, went shopping, and that's what he did. They got so many good players, Sue, Peters, Talib, and it all started before that when they were able to get Whitworth, their left tackle, so many key players. So huge offseason, and everyone started to talk about how this team could be a Super Bowl team.
Right.
But we know the locker room didn't want to talk about that because they know they could get there, but they didn't want to bring those distractions in. And I'm glad they did it because they had a great season this year. They went off to a great start. They had an 8-0 start this year, probably the hottest team in football. And then we all know what happened when they went down to New Orleans, had a 45-35 loss to them. They were down real early, but they were able to bounce back later in that game, make it competitive. But they did lose that game for the first time. The huge Monday Night Football Classic, I think we'll always remember this year, against the Chiefs, 54-51 win. That was a back and forth, and it even had myself saying this is the new NFL. This is what it's going to look like in a few years, and I still believe that because the Rams are playing that way, the Chiefs are playing that way, and the one team's in the Super Bowl. Chiefs were one play away from the Super Bowl, so I definitely believe that's the new NFL in just a couple years. But then after that, they had two tough losses back to back.
Yeah.
They went to Chicago and just got
the Bears' loss was bad.
outmanned, outperformed. Chicago was just way tougher than this LA team, and it had me question this team. I like this team a lot, but they weren't tough enough against an old school team like the Chicago Bears. And it really worried me when they came back home to LA. They lost to the Eagles behind Nick Foles now. I think the Eagles played much better now in the later year. We saw how they played in the playoffs. They played very well. So the Eagles were a much better team, but still losing that game after getting shut down by the Bears, it really questioned me what this team can do. But after that, they bounced back. Of course, they had the Cowboys playoff win, big win against the Saints in the playoff last week. So they started off really well. Kind of took a hit near the end of the season, but in the playoffs, I think they bounced back. And I still don't think we've seen the best Rams team in this playoffs yet. Questions behind Todd Gurley, which we're going to get to in a little bit. And I still don't think this is the best Rams team we saw earlier this year. But I think if they're healthy, they have the right game plan, the right mindset, we're going to see the best Rams team on Sunday.
Yeah, it's going to take the best Rams team, and it's a lot. Like you said, they took a much different journey than the Patriots did. I was not very bought into this. They almost took I compare it to a college basketball type approach to the NFL season. They got all these guys on 1-year rentals. Talib, a 1-year deal. Peters, I'm pretty sure, is a 1-year deal as well. Sue's a 1-year deal. So they got all these guys for 1 year and expected it to pan out, and I didn't buy into that. I think I've always said no, that works. I mean, obviously college basketball, the way John Calipari has approached the one-and-done rule, and it's almost like Sean McVay brought that to football. And it worked. I mean, I will say, seeing them, especially the first, I believe they started 8-0.
Yes.
Won their first 8 games, and that's when I started to say, okay, this team, I still didn't believe in them that much. Frankly, I still don't that much. But man, it's worked. And then, of course, the loss to the Saints, which actually they more than their first 8 wins in that game, they proved to me almost that they are for real, that they could play them. They played really well, and I thought that Saints team they were unstoppable at that point.
Right.
And then the tough game with the Seahawks, they get through that one, and then of course the Chiefs, which is an incredible football game. A lot of people I know wanted that Super Bowl.
Including myself.
I'm kind of happy that isn't the Super Bowl because it would have never, ever lived up to that expectation. So no matter how you looked at it, it could have been a disappointment. And then the Bears lost. And when I saw the Bears loss, I believe it was Monday Night Football, correct?
Sunday Night Football.
Was it Sunday Night Football? when they lost to the Bears on Sunday Night Football, I remember watching that game and okay, here's this Rams team that I expect to happen. What's going to happen when they get hit in the mouth? Because everything up to this point pretty much been all sunshine. You know, the passing game was working. Gurley was a favorite for MVP. Donald was destroying. Everything was going right for the team. Everyone loved Sean McVay. And now all of a sudden they get beat down on the road in Chicago by a tough, physical, old-school team. And I saw, like, okay, I thought they were done at that point. And then they lose next week to Philly. And at that point, I'm thinking, I think the Saints have it in the bag. They got the NFC in log. I thought the Bears had the best chance to beat them. And I think the scheduling really helped that they had the Cardinals and the 49ers as their last 2 games to regroup, refocus, and get their mission straight again. And Sean McVay used those 2 games and used the rest of the season to get them focused heading into the playoffs. And that's why hats off to Sean McVay and this entire team. They earned this trip. I don't care what people say about the missed call in the NFC Championship. The Rams deserve to be here.
Yeah, and I like what you said about the Rams system, how it's kind of college basketball feel. I'm going to have a lot more on that later in this show, so make sure to tune into that. I got a lot of good stuff about what the Rams are doing right now and how, if they win this Super Bowl, it could definitely change the league and how teams do things differently. So we'll get to that later. But the Rams, for me, they were 1-2 this whole season in my power rankings, battling with the Saints, the Chiefs, and the Patriots, of course. But right now, they're my number 2 team right behind the Patriots, but we're going to get to our picks later in the show for sure. But that's how the Patriots and the Rams both got to the big game on Sunday.
So, yeah, those are their 2 journeys. And before we head off to our first break, I want to touch on the key storylines and the key impacts for this game for you to watch.
Yeah, for me, on the Patriots side, it's how they use Gronk in this game.
That's a good one.
He's been, much more of a blocker this season, but in the AFC Championship game, he went off for the AFC Championship game. He was a huge deal. Of course, he got the catch of the night from Tom Brady, of course, on the 3rd down. So it's how Gronk they're going to use him in this game, and how the Rams defend him, because I believe the Rams have the worst defense against tight ends in the league. And that scares me a lot.
Not the guy you want to play against.
I could see Gronk going off, having a big game, win the Super Bowl, and possibly retiring right after. But we'll get to that later.
More on that. Yeah, a lot more on that. That's a great impact. I'm looking at an offensive player from the other side. I'll see a big one, Todd Gurley.
Yeah.
And his usage. Got off to a pretty good start in these playoffs against the Cowboys. He had 115 rushing yards, but he still got out-carried by C.J. Anderson by 7 carries. C.J. Anderson had 23 carries in the game and more yards. Todd Gurley had 16 carries. So that's 7 more carries. And then, of course, last game against the Saints, he has 4 carries for I can't even remember how many yards.
Probably 2. I think it was only like 2 yards.
Not much at all. So it's going to be interesting to see how they use him. Is he healthy? He says he's healthy. I think he's healthy. I just think C.J. Anderson fits that system right now.
I believe so, too.
And they got to go with what's working right now because they got 1 game left in the season. So how they use Todd Gurley, I think, is a huge storyline. And the other big one for me, the Rams' defensive line versus the Patriots' offensive line. This offensive line has been incredible this year, led by Shaq Mason. The way they've gotten their run game going and the way they protected Tom Brady, especially down the stretch against Kansas City, that is going to be critical now because you got Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh lining up on the other side. That's a scary tandem to deal with. So that's a huge impact for me. If they could pressure Tom Brady, I think that's going to be their key to winning the game.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. Todd Gurley, we're going to see how he is on Sunday. And another thing for me, I don't think the Rams are at full strength either. Cooper Kupp, he's been gone this all second half of the year and the playoffs.
That's your guy.
He's a big part of that offense, and they don't have him anymore. How can they use Brandon Cooks and Robert Woods more to find them get the ball? They've been doing a nice job recently, but I think a Cooper Kupp addition here in the Super Bowl would be a huge help for this Rams team.
So those are our big-time storylines heading into Super Bowl Sunday. Don't worry, though. We still got 5 more segments with you today talking about Super Bowl Sunday. So make sure to stay tuned. We're about to head off to break right now, but we got our top 10 players involved within the Super Bowl coming up for you. We'll give you both our lists. So stay tuned. It's going to be a great show today.
We'll be right back.